And welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for being on the Temple Hayes Show, on fire for life. Oh my goodness, we just continue to work with that ageless spirit of life and energy. I'm thrilled today to have the wonderful Prisco Panza. He's an athletic trainer, an athletic coach. He's a life coach. He helps people recode patterns, and he also helps you not react to phrases and certain words. I know I've got one I want to work on today, but he is just an incredible human being. I want to urge you to ask questions in the chat room in the comments section, whether you're on LinkedIn, YouTube, different channels on Facebook. If we don't feature you during the live show, we will get to you at another time. Okay, so thank you for tuning in, and we are going to bring in Prisco. There he is.
Hey.
I told you he was cute.
Thanks. Thank you, Reverend Shepherd. I'll take that every time.
Oh, you ought
So
to. You ought to, right? For me, I had such low self-esteem, in the early first chapters of my life, that if somebody would say, "You're so beautiful," or "I love your shirt," or whatever, I wouldn't even give them time to finish the sentence, but I'd change the subject, right?
mm,
Then, as I was on the road and teaching and realizing, hello, walk your talk, then I would start saying thank you. But then I grew to a place, and now I say, thank you for noticing, because I have to really breathe whatever that comment is, or whatever. When I was reading about your bio, I was kind of reflecting on a guy I met when I was in ministerial school, Thomas Gender, the Gender Boys, who created NLP,
mm,
linguistic programming.
mm-hmm.
That started with the Olympic runners. I don't know if you've ever heard of them or not.
I have not, but I'm familiar with NLP. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I found you in Santa Barbara. You found me. So now you get to talk about what a nice guy like you is doing in a place like this. Have you lived in Santa Barbara long?
I believe we're going on 6 years. Yeah. So yeah, it's not been too long. It's kind of interesting story how I got to Santa Barbara. That's for sure.
Well, is it interesting enough? Is it a public talk?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's shareable. It's just so yeah. Originally, I'm from New York. Obviously, the accent. And I had moved to South Carolina to work with some PGA golfers for a while, and that was a short-lived thing. And I wanted to move to the West Coast, so just had a dream. Somebody wanted to go to Seattle, so I said, "Hey, what the heck? Let's go to Seattle." So went to Seattle and ended up falling into this gym with Ivan Saliveri. It's a mixed martial arts gym. Ivan actually started the MMA back in the day. Um, we hit it off, and I was there for a few years, and then I just couldn't. I was unable to handle the doom and gloom every day of the weather, so I just said, I had to go. I mean, I just had to go. So been wanting to live in California, moved to California. So I said, hey, what the heck? Let's just start driving. Let's just start driving and see what happens.
I love that. I love that.
So
That's
packed,
that's
packed,
really listening to your inner guide there, right?
yeah, packed up everything, put it in a U-Haul, and took the one all the way down. So.
Well, and so you're obviously happy here if you've stayed here 6 years.
Yeah, no, it's been a great place. The people are good response, and I'm co-owner with Seth Stanley. We own Alchemy Training Lab, so actually have a small training studio right here in Santa Barbara too. So,
Wonderful.
yeah.
Well, we've been engaging here in Santa Barbara to bring to people's awareness more of the work that you do, and also to other unities or CSL communities, because your work is very impressive. So, when you were working with the PGA, et cetera, is that the same type of athletic training? I mean, are you working with mind and groundedness or mental, or talk about that? What is it that you do to do athletic? Well, look at that, athletic training.
Boom.
You ought to know that I'm going to make the show fun. I can't do boring and
All
monotonous.
right, all right,
Get in it, okay? So,
all right.
how did you get into all this anyway? Why do you care?
Well, so the recode aspect of things is a little bit different, but I've always, as a coach, what I realized early on as an athletic trainer is if you are going to make a dent in anybody's career or help them reach a goal, you have to be able to get into their headspace and be able to shift that.
Okay.
So I just started doing a lot of psychological research. Just I actually got certified as a hypnotherapist, so I was using that at one point. And now I've actually developed my own type of hypnotherapy that I use, which does it. You never have to put the person into an unconscious state. They can actually stay conscious and move through the process, same as if you were in hypnotherapy, which is kind of cool. And I have there's reasons for that too. But that being said, so it's just morphed into, one thing after another. The PGA golfers, it was more about their flexibility. Weren't really working with too much with their headspaces. I mean, a little bit, but it wasn't the mainstay. The mainstay was their flexibility, and their ability to, you know, just consistently hit the ball in a way that wouldn't hurt their bodies,
Got
because
it.
it's such a repetitive stress. Like if you're a righty, you're always hitting righty, so it's a repetitive stress on the body. So yeah, just stuff like that. Get in the change the game to hit lefty more and just kind of, you know, uh, switch up their games.
Yeah. Hilton Head or Myrtle Beach?
Myrtle Beach, actually, yeah.
Okay.
Hilton Head was not a good destination. I didn't really wasn't too crazy about that, but Myrtle Beach has got, oh my gosh, they have so many great golf courses there. Yeah.
They're really happening. We used to go there to get drunk and party when I was a teenager. In the Carolinas, we weren't too concerned about golf courses.
Probably not.
We were more interested in keeping our car on the road, but that was a different talk for a different time.
That's for sure.
That must be so rewarding for you. So, as you're working with people as an athletic trainer, as you're working with them with flexibility or their mind, then you were working with another person, you said, that became your co-founder. What was the process in your discovering or creating or having that aha for the recoding that you do now? That we got lots of feedback here in Santa Barbara when you did the course here. um, how did you discover that?
So that's an interesting, yeah. And she may still be trying to get in. That's really a long. It's not a long story, but it's a great story. So,
We have
Christopher Chris,
we have
Christopher Duncan is the person who created the skeleton, if you will, of the recode, and he pulled it from a couple different sources and created what he calls his version of the superconscious recode. That's his version of it.
right.
Mine is the recode for life, and the difference is the main. Hey, there she is.
I mean,
Hi, sweetheart. So
uh,
the main difference is. We have brought in a heavy amount of divinity and spirituality to this process, as I was guided to do,
Okay.
because my teachings come from the Ascended Masters. I've been super blessed to um, get myself to a space where I can actually listen here and commune with that community. And they asked me, say, hey, listen, it would be a good idea to integrate that in. So that kind of catapulted it to what it is, and that's why it's so extremely powerful and works so quickly and so efficiently.
So, Pamela, he's taking a breath because, or I'm speaking for him and acknowledging that he's taking a breath, because as soon as you
Boom.
said, oh, well, she's probably trying to get in right now, with Bob, there you were. So we're breathing that in, and I'm Temple Hayes, and I'm grateful that you are joining us on the On Fire for Life show. And oh my gosh, you got some fire going on. And I usually like to say that I love the quote by Howard Thurman: stop asking what the world needs
mhm.
and realize that what the world can use is more people being alive. Ask yourself what makes you come alive, because that's what the world really needs. It's more of us to be fully engaged and totally alive. It's very evident. Both of you are doing an exceptional job. So this
Thank
is how we do it. Yeah, you would never know I'm only 40, right?
Yes.
Yes. So anyway, that's where we are. That he just manifested you, blop, here you are. And so you and Prisco, how long you co-founded your concept, right? Of the recode model and the way that you do it?
you. Yeah, and we've been refining it over the last, oh gosh, probably, I don't know, a couple of years, really.
For sure.
It just keeps getting deeper, more expansive, more powerful, more profound as we keep getting these little insights and ideas about, wow, let's add this to the recode. And we'll be having conversations and it will bring out something that we've learned or discovered recently. And then we'll be, wow, let's add that to the recode.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like this evolving, beautiful energy that's not static, but is consistently gaining momentum, getting more powerful, transforming more lives, doing it in a bigger and bigger way. And it's honestly just so exciting and beautiful to see. And you talk about like the world, like how different would it be if everybody was on fire and doing what lights them up? And I love that. And it's really what the recode helps people do, because it's all about figuring out what would you love to have more of in your life. And then what the recode helps you do is from being able to that.
Got
And
it.
so it actually helps people take the action towards creating a life that's full of everything that they'd love more of. And so I love that you started out with that and said that.
Mm-hmm.
What a beautiful place the world would be. Everyone was able to come from this place in their life, more joy in their life, and actually be doing more of what does light them up and, you know, lets them feel like they're on fire and really, you know, doing what they came here to be and living a life that they love.
Absolutely. If that would be people's, to me, that would be their lighthouse. I mean, those of us in the world that are doing our work, most of all, hopefully on ourselves, and and holding the container of promoting the work that we're learning with depth throughout, you know, whatever we're called to do. But it's like people that aren't radically positive and they have lived a life of victimhood or negativity. I'm not making them wrong. There was a time that where I was in my life growing up was because of everybody else, you know, and that's why Prisco will tell you anytime I do a talk, if you're still blaming your parents after 30, you're right. You're missing the whole point. But I think people are so quick to say, you know, you don't know what I'm going through. You don't know what I'm going through. You don't know what I've been through. It's like, yes, we do, probably more than most people. It doesn't mean that when you have tragedy that you go, oh, I'm so happy. And you know what I mean? Is people are so quick to poo-poo, you know, good tools. It's like, no, it's not what we're saying. The way out is through. And you have a measure that when you get through your mother dying or your major car accident or your diagnosis, that you're holding a container, that once you get to that other place, there's going to be more of you. We're not denying anything. And when you said our work together is more organic, it's changing, it's evolving, I went, wow, you're talking about a successful work right there, because you don't have it in a box, you know. I think she is having difficulty with her.
Yeah, there's some internet stuff that goes on there, but I'm sure she'll pop back in a minute.
it's those ascended masters you're talking about. There's
No
she is.
worries.
This is how you roll. I'm going to ask you: are you a real person, or are you on the other dimension?
Well,
That's a loaded question.
I can imagine. I love it. I love it. And I did, Andrea, the executive producer, and myself, we created shows for like 15 years. And it was very structured, and it had commercials, and it had all the other trappings. But in doing On Fire for Life starting last year, the same thing. It's like, I don't want to be in a box. I want to have fun. I don't want to be under one genre because I don't know what direction I want to go. And I applaud you for allowing things to unfold. It sounds so rewarding. Are you, Pamela, in California as well?
I'm not. I'm here in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Okay, good for you.
Yeah, Prisco and I actually met. It's so interesting at a training in Florida. Actually 2.25 years ago today, interestingly enough. We met on the 20th.
Gosh, how cool is that?
Yeah, imagine that.
So
Well, happy anniversary.
thank you.
It really is a divine appointment. We had someone, a guest. We're usually about 4 to 6 months out, and we had a guest that unfortunately her father had a stroke, and she couldn't make it, and so it was like, Prisco. So how appropriate that here the two of you are, and so you met in Florida. And you knew you were called to do something together, or what's the story with that? The parts you can tell in public. Thank you.
Well, we hit it off at this training, and Prisco was actually helping run the training, and so he couldn't really mingle and engage the same way that participants could. And I was a participant there, and so we'd connect a little bit on breaks or things like that, but we just really felt a connection. And so he got my phone number, and after it was over, we connected by phone and realized that there was a really deep connection there that we wanted to pursue. And so we've done a lot of back and forth to Utah and to Santa Barbara. And so it's been really beautiful.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, I was reading in the
Anything wants to add to
you, Prisco. I am psychic, but I don't put that on my business card. He's going, I can't believe this gal. Anyway, look at him. One of the descriptions you were talking about with your work of the recode, certain words that send you somewhere. Why is it, as a woman, to have someone say with a tone, "Thank you, ma'am"? Why does that jolt us? What is that about? Is that coming from our ancestors? Is it coming from, it definitely is a button pusher for just about every woman I've ever spoken to. What is that?
That's an interesting question. And it's a good question, because what happens is, first of all, in terms of these things that are triggers for us, it's just like you say, out of the blue, you can be doing great, and then someone will say something to you, and all of a sudden, there you go, a little bit up in arms, and you're not sure why. You're like, wow, why did that affect me that way? Why? I was having a great day and a great mood. Someone said that, and now it's ruffled my feathers a little bit. Why is that? Mm-hmm. And it's interesting, because part of that is that there are certain ancestral beliefs that are handed down to us through our DNA.
Right.
And there could be something about, not necessarily about the ma'am thing, although it could be, but there could be, something in one of these triggers that is in your DNA handed down to ancestrally that you don't even really comprehend why that ruffles your feather, why it triggers you that way. Mm-hmm. And then it can be your own life experiences that you've had in this world. And it could be something, from the time you were really young, that someone spoke to you in that tone of voice or in a certain way that made you feel, less than or unworthy or incapable or something like that. And so it taps into those early feelings of when you felt that way. And there's just enough of a similarity that it triggers in your subconscious that response. But interestingly, these ancestral beliefs are really powerful. And I want to tell you about a study that proves this. It was done at Emory University and they did it with mice. A lot of the studies they do are done with animals. And it was this experiment with the smell of cherry blossoms. And so they had all these mice in a cage and they would be perfectly happy doing their thing. And then they would, right before they were going to shock them in this cage, they would release the smell of cherry blossoms, shock the mice. And so they did this enough times that they started to relate this painful shock that they would get with the smell of cherry blossoms. And so pretty soon, the experimenters would just release the smell of cherry blossoms in the cage and they wouldn't shock them. And the mice would react with the same stress level and anxiety and reaction as if they had literally been shocked, which they hadn't. So here's where it gets interesting. When the baby mice were born, they found that all they needed to do is put the smell of cherry blossoms in the cage, and the baby mice had that same stressed out, anxious reaction as the parents did without having ever been shocked.
Yeah.
This reaction, this trigger, like you're talking about, the trigger being the cherry blossoms in this case, was showing up in the kids, and the little baby mice had never been shocked. They'd never had that actual connection with the smell of the cherry blossoms and the shock, but they still exhibited all the same stresses to this trigger as the parents who had actually lived this. And they found that this was true down to the 7th generation of mice.
Wow.
So look how far that carried it. So it's interesting how you bring that up, that some of these triggers we experience can be handed down through 6 or 7 generations, and we may never know why that rubs us the wrong way. It sets us off. But the great thing is with the recode, bringing it back to that, is we don't need to know where the triggers came from, where the painful emotions are from, to recode and rewrite the instructions and information about that. So for example, in this case, if we were doing a recode on the smell of cherry blossoms, they had done this with people, which fortunately they didn't, but if someone had a trigger like this to the smell of cherry blossoms that was handed down, they didn't understand it, but they're like, wow, why is it every time I smell cherry blossoms, I get this anxiety and this anxious stress, and I feel, really anxious, like I want to run away or like I'm unsafe. We would go in through the recode process, connect to their superconscious, bring in the ascended masters and some of these other spiritual beings that help and assist with their beautiful, powerful energy. And we would rewrite the instructions and the information about that trigger. When the recode's over, the miraculous thing, and it really does just almost seem like a miracle every time. It's so beautiful to see. The person could go in, smell the cherry blossoms, and they would be unfazed by it.
Right.
It's absolutely amazing.
That's beautiful. So what are some of the things that you have witnessed with certain clients? I mean, obviously not naming names, but is there one Prisco that you've seen, or a couple that you went, wow, that's just profound?
So there's actually like 2 or 3 that come to mind, and if you give me a few minutes, I'll totally share them with you. So there was this one particular lady that came to me, and she had most people come to me with a physical issue.
Okay.
Not realizing that, like what Louise Hay says, Louise Hay correlates the emotional and the physical together, right? So the first thing I do is I go down because fortunately I was trained with her and Wayne Dyer back in New York. So
Right.
fortunately I have that behind me going into this. So I'm always looking at things from that perspective. And once I was able to figure that out, we kind of just started asking questions around it. And once we got to the deeper issue of what happened is basically she would every time she would get in a car, she would have a panic attack, especially if she wasn't driving, and
Mm,
especially if the weather was bad. Like she couldn't even sit and get in a car. Anyway, so we did a little slight meditation regression, like just kind of put her in that space, like my form of hypnotherapy, and kind of unpacked it. And what happened was when she was a young girl, super young girl, her and her best friend were standing on the curb together, and for whatever reason, her friend stepped off the curb, and you know, a car took her down the road. And so that trauma
mm,
stuck into her at that age. And anyway, so we brought in her friend. We had a conversation with her friend right there on the spot, and allowed her friend to communicate through me to her to get that squared away, because obviously that happened. She didn't even know. She never had another chance to speak to her friend, so
mhm.
she was still grieving over that issue. And so then I said to the both of them, I said, well, if you're ready, we can put this behind us and release all of that stuff. So then that, from there, I recoded it. Don't you know, she goes home, and it turns out, listen to this, 2 days later, it was a Friday night. 2 days later, she's like, I'm driving in the car with my husband. It's pouring rain. She goes, and we had to slam on the brakes. Somebody cut us off. She goes, I didn't even flinch.
Wow.
And I just said, that's one
That's
session.
yeah, that's wonderful.
And I just said to myself, wow, that's
Yeah,
like,
works.
so one of the other big ones that stood out was I working with an individual who owned a major company, and they want to purchase another company worth quite a bit of money. And so they come to me to get clarity on things, like what to do, when to do, how to do. And basically his idea, he wanted a piece of this company. He didn't want the whole company, but the guy said, listen, it's all or nothing. So it's like, well, I could just buy it and dismantle the rest and send everybody home, which is not what he wanted to do, but this is his business, and he wanted this piece for his business, not to take over another business. And so I said to him, I said, well, I go, maybe there's another possibility here. Maybe we could, figure out a way to work with you with the recode to know exactly what to do and how to do it, and get clarity on it for yourself. So we did a couple sessions around that, and he got the clarity he needed to purchase it and the price to purchase it for. He bought the company. He started another company with the rest of the company, and he took that piece and put that into his company, and it was a phenomenal success.
Wow.
Then he decided he wanted to do a recode with all the people in the company. So he
Huh.
set that up. So you can do a recode with all your CFOs, your CIOs, your CEOs, and all of that stuff. So as the owner, he's the head kingpin energetically of the creation, because it's his creation.
Mhm.
And he created that from a baby. That was his like, he didn't buy it from somebody. He created that business. So and such, he could make the changes in it. So we did that as well. We coded the facility itself, and literally, he said things changed in the facility the following week, between demeanor, attitude, productivity, and they could literally look at the productivity for that week, and it was a marked difference.
Wow.
Yeah, and this was without the people even participating. And I said to him, I said, if the people participated in this, I said, you would see a huge increase in productivity in that situation. So that's another one. And the children are phenomenal, just phenomenal, because they're so open,
Right.
right? They whatever it is that they have going on, they just don't want it going on anymore. So they're just so willing to let it go. And that's just with working with teens and younger kids and just moving them through some of the processes. It's just I had this one teenager navigating a girlfriend situation, and she broke up with him because of her own fears about some stuff going on in his life. And so I kind of coached him through some stuff as to what to do with it. and we did, recodes around the subject, and it turns out everything ultimately worked out great. They're back together, and so you can, I mean, the subjects that you can recode is everything and anything. It could be relationships, it could be physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, sexual, financial. It doesn't matter. It's
Well, I think that would be a huge market for you. The teenagers, there's so much suicide now, and yeah, yeah.
true. I mean, there's a lot that goes on with. I get some people that come in with multiple personalities, or um,
Mm,
wanting to take their own life, and a lot of that has to do with external forces coming upon them, like entities and such like that.
sure.
And I don't know where your belief system is with those things, but
Yeah.
yeah. So it's sometimes it's not always that. So we in the recode, Pamela brought in this amazing entity removal that we do. So you literally, that's part of the recode. You will remove all any negative energy fields and all entities as well.
She gets so happy when you say her name. It's like, oh, did you get that? Y'all have a
Oh, there-
great, you have a great partnership. That's wonderful.
Yeah, she's a
yeah,
superstar. There's no question.
Yeah.
but when he talks about the recode like this and these things we've added in, it lights me up.
Of
It's
course.
so transformational. And Prisco talks about with teenagers, and I have 2 kids, and the change that I've been able to see this make in some things for them. It's so beautiful. And sometimes as a parent, we feel so helpless with certain things that can be happening with our kids at the time, and we really can't fix it. There's certain things we can help with, we can counsel with, but then there's some things that you can't really fix. But for parents out there to have this recode in their back pocket,
Hmm.
then if their kids were open to it, they sit down and unpack what's going on with you, and would you be open to doing a recode?
Right.
And once the kids experience the change, and what can happen with the power of the Shri code, like Prisco was talking about, even on an issue like a girlfriend issue, which is a big deal to a teenager,
Oh, yeah.
any of these key relationships, and or if it's something with their health or even success, like they want to go out for a team or a position, or a cheerleader or something like that, but they're feeling insecure about it, or can I really make it, or they may have all the skills, but there's this subconscious resistance or doubts in there that might be holding them back from performing their best.
Right.
And can take care of all of that. I mean, I use it on myself all the time.
Every day, every day.
My favorite thing. And it's just so amazing once you feel the power of it. And so I think about the recode and I can't help but like light up and smile.
Yeah, both of you, you're both like Energizer bunnies. So it's really great. You can see that life force just, I bet you just like want to have everybody in the world do it. I mean, wow, right?
So true. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a combination of a lot of different people's work, and the Ascended Masters teachings of that put together that really bring it together. I do want to add on to something though that Pamela was saying, and that's a good point. So as a parent, you can actually do a recode for your child. So you could what do we call that word?
By proxy or surrogation.
Surrogation. By surrogation, you could do a recode for your child. Now, if the child's over 13, you've got to get permission from their higher self to do that. But if the child's under 13, you can do it. So just because that's the spiritual, age cutoff limit, so to speak, on our planet. But yeah, so you don't even, so if a parent has a situation where they're not communicating with their child, they're butting heads or whatever, but they see this child going down a bad road, they can recode a lot of that. First of all, it's a lot of it's probably their own issues, and then they can recode that aspect for the child, and it will literally shift the dynamic and the situation, the relationship. We first of all, Pam and I have seen that and done that firsthand, so we know that absolutely works and it's true. Plus, I've had clients do this with their kids many occasions, and it works every single time.
Wow, that's powerful. Well, where does one go to schedule an appointment? How do they find you? I believe we put something in the lifestyleconsultingservices.com. Yes. Is that the best place to reach both of you, or lifestyleconsultingservice.com?
So that is the web address, and on that there's an email that you can always send me an email to make an appointment. Actually, Pamela had a great idea about doing some intro recos. Why don't you tell them a little bit about that, Biff?
So first of all, we have a 6-session class coming up that's going to be starting on, I think it's August 4th.
Yeah, at Unity.
Birthday, interestingly.
Write this down. August 4th.
August 4th, and that will be a class, one a month, every month for 6 months. So that after the class, during the rest of the month, people have time to practice the information, absorb it if they have questions or need a little bit of assistance with that. But we're going to be teaching the recode to people so they can utilize it in their own lives. And then also other things that are related to the recode and key components about using it. And then just some general education overall about connecting to your own intuition, connecting to the divine, that sort of stuff in there as well. And so what we wanted to do, because Prisco just held a great class this past Sunday about this and show some things, but a lot of people couldn't make it or they weren't aware of it. And so what we're doing is in the month of July, we are offering 2 free intro recode sessions.
Okay.
So that's going to be an hour each. Mm-hmm. That gives time for people to come in, experience the recode for themselves at no charge, and then have time after for a question and answer.
Okay.
Questions about it, want to talk about what they've experienced. And so we are going to do 2 of those in July. We're alternating the days. I'll give you the days and times in a moment, but one will be on a Thursday night, one will be on a Wednesday night. So hopefully, like if a Thursday doesn't work for someone, then a Wednesday would. Mm-hmm. And if you just love it, like you came the very first one and you loved it and you just want to experience the recode again at no charge, or you want to bring back a friend or family member to do it with you and experience it, then we're offering that. And so I've got written down here, I'm going to look and make sure I get this right. So
this is going to be posted through the Unity SB website or Prisco, your website, or?
I'll have it on, we'll have it on both, and I'll have it on my social media too.
Okay.
So just so people kind of hear right now and have an idea of when this will be, the first one would be Thursday, July 11th. From 6 to 7 p.m. Pacific time. And the second one would be Wednesday, July 24th from 7 to 8 p.m. again in Pacific time. And we'd love to have you join us for that. It's going to be fun. We'll do it as a group. And one thing that I wanted to say about that is anytime you get a group together doing a recode, the energy and the potency of that recode is exponentialized because it's amplifying and magnifying the energy of everyone there. And it's all going and connecting in with each other to pop it out for an even more powerful result.
Yes, absolutely.
It's really awesome to experience that recode as well.
Well, I'm thrilled that you have a home base at Unity of Santa Barbara, and that it worked out real well. That's really good, you know. And I understand it will also be live streamed. Is that true?
Yes,
that's right.
So the class is going to be all put through the AV team that is there. We're going to run it. It's going to be a live stream. It will be recorded, so you'll have it to refer back to. So if you're signing up for that class and paying for that class, you'll be able to have access to it, for the rest of your
One
duration.
of my is tuning in right now from New Zealand. I know, so we have a lot of people in other countries, so that's great. Wonderful. Oh, exciting times. I love that all the these things are now manifesting. Different ways
Yeah.
to unlock, different ways to create a new code or recode, or there's so much room for so many,
Yeah.
this, I mean, it's fascinating. Good for the two of you for listening to your hearts,
Yeah. Yeah. You.
all in Florida, good for you, right?
It wasn't so hard, really. It really wasn't so hard.
Just meant to be. Just meant to,
I just went like this.
right? Yeah, absolutely. Well, Pamela, does a story come to mind with you of like, wow, that's amazing? You know,
I think probably one of the most powerful examples that, well, there's two powerful examples that come to mind for this. One is the way this process works with grief for people
mm-hmm.
who have lost a loved family member or a loved pet. I know for people that love their pets, including me, I lost my beautiful dog 15 years 2 summers ago, and I can tell you it's so hard to say goodbye to a beloved companion like that. And so the way I've seen the recode work with grief of losing pets or family members, it's so powerful, because what happens is you lose that sense of deep loss
Mm-hmm.
to the person or the pet, but you're just left with the beautiful memories and the appreciation and the love for that.
Mm-hmm.
But without, every time you think about them, going into the grief and the heartbreak and the sense of loss around that. And then another one that is really powerful is someone that had been sexually abused by their father. And so there was this really strong disconnect in the relationship, as an adult, and a difficult time really feeling the love for the father that would be, normal in a normal relationship. However, these kind of abuse situations are so difficult to be in and so painful for everyone involved, because the father was, come to find out, was terribly sexually abused as a child, and going into teenage years and that sort of stuff. And so the reasons that he was perpetrating this were, he was a victim too. And unfortunately, this is what happens in a lot of these cases.
Sure, yeah. Mm-hmm.
On to become the victimizer, and it's this just terrible cycle sometimes in families. And so, but the beautiful thing about this is through the use of the recode, this person was able to then release the kind of the animosity and the anger and the feelings towards the dad, and approach him in the relationship with more compassion, not only for themselves, but also for what the father had been through in order to do those kind of horrible things. And so it just can be so, these are burdens that people carry that can really weigh them down in life. And so when you're able to lift and lighten those, and it's like through this recode, you're able to lift someone up to get kind of this eternal, or this spiritual, or this 40,000 foot view of what's happening down here in this 3D plane. And so you get this view of this bigger picture of everyone and their behavior and what's happened, and you're able to go through life with more grace and compassion for not only people around you, and then build these bridges with relationships where normally, there's almost no way that you could foresee being able to bridge these kind of gaps.
Sure.
Someone, but this it's almost like, the Savior's beautiful healing balm and presence that comes in for people and allows them to really just have a change of heart and see things in a different way. And so That's probably another one of the most powerful things that I've been able to see. And the recode does work great with people that are have been sexually abused, whether they, it's through a rape situation or some sort of family member, a neighbor, or something like that. It really is. I know this is such a heavy topic, so kind of apologize about bringing it in, but this.
Well, it might be a heavy topic, but it's around the world. So, I mean, we are where we are. And I was telling someone this morning that for many years, as a spiritual leader, I believe that we're healed by what we turn towards, not what we turn away from. Yeah, it's certainly more fun talking about la la and, yay, yay, and all that. But yet, we are in a culture that there are many colors of the rainbow. There's many things that people have going on. It's like, somebody said to me one time, like, well, I don't want to be political. And I said, well, as a heterosexual woman, you probably never had to think about it. But as a gay woman, I have. I can go into other countries and be killed now.
Right. Exactly.
So, it's like, okay. But I think that it's also beautiful when we can go, well, that doesn't apply to me, but we can expand and say, well, I'm not into that, but I can see where so many of you are, or with what's going on. And to me, that's what's going to transform us, to a whole new level. Well, the two of you are such a delight. I love your partnership. It's really wonderful. I can see why you're just scratching the surface of being a tremendous success. And it's really been a pleasure having you on and seeing your energy. And I'm so glad. Well, let me say this different. I'm not glad for the reasons that the other person couldn't come on the show today, but I'm certainly glad that it worked out so last minute, Prisco, that you said yes and got Pamela to come on. And I'm sure with the work that you're doing in Santa Barbara, it will be up close and personal, and I'll get to hear and watch and observe the many things that you are doing. And so it's been a blessing to have you, and much continued success to you in the future. Thank you for being on Fire for Life.
Oh, you're absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yes. Absolutely. It's so great having you.
Super fun being here. Could I have a moment to just add something what Pamela said?
Yeah.
So just to be clear, one of the most things I find super fascinating about the recode is that you can clear the lineage. So like whatever the line is, so like let's say you clear it in your child, you can clear for the whole lineage all the way back that has this problem of whatever it might be. Could be, let's say it is sexual abuse or something. So why is that so important? The importance there is because now it won't be self-perpetuated by the next generation.
Yeah.
It's cut off.
Yeah.
So it's like cutting the head off the snake. So now it's not going to reproduce. It's not possible.
Right. Yeah.
So it's kind of an important, and it's like super important to realize that. And I would say probably 75 to 80% of the recodes I do, there's lineage work going on. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet. I find that when I do shaman work with people too.
Oh, I bet.
A lot of it isn't. If we've done a lot of work in this space, in the conscious space, and yet something's still ongoing, it is fascinating how it can come from other time reality. Recode. Thank you so much for being with us. Okay. It's been a real